What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we have the latest update on the railroad workers strike. And I gotta be honest with you, sometimes I hate it when I'm right. Got an update from what the Senate did today, and it's atrocious. But before we dive into that, like button, subscribe button, notification bell, comment, and share. Spread it out. Let's go. According to NPR, man, you guys are going to be so pissed. But do not despair. This is not the time for despair. Let's dive into it. I'm going from NPR because, to me, they're the least slanted. They kind of try to stay down the middle of the road, and I appreciate that. So, here we go. Senate passes railroad legislation to prevent a strike. Or did they? The Senate has approved a measure meant to avert a railroad strike in 8 days, without the paid sick days that rail workers have been asking for. Senators passed the bill to force unions to accept a tentative agreement reached earlier this year between railroad managers and their workers and make an imminent strike illegal. That is a false statement. Senators passed the bill to force unions to accept a tentative agreement reached earlier this year between railroad managers and the elected representatives on the negotiating team. The workers did not negotiate this deal at all. In fact, their needs were pushed to the side by elected representatives who banked on a blue president, a blue House, and a blue Senate to come through in the clutch instead of banking on the solidarity of their members. They were failed by their negotiators, as so often is the case. Sucks that they worded this way, because it makes it sound to the general Joe public who doesn't have a freaking clue when he's reading this. It goes, oh, this was between the managers and the workers. Well, hell, yeah, if you already had a deal in place, man, you can't back out now. See how it frames it? It's bullshit. Whew. Anyway, make an imminent strike illegal without making any changes. By an 80-15 vote, they rejected a measure to offer paid sick leave 52-43. Both measures required 60 votes to clear the Senate. So by 80-15, they voted to force this bad contract down the throats of workers. And then by 52-43, as a way to try to save face, because they know they're screwing up, they put the 7-day sick leave measure on the floor, and it goes 52-43 with Joe Manchin, by the way, joining the Republicans, and several Republicans joining Democrats to try to add it in. But it's just a show, folks. It was just a show. I told you yesterday, this part of it was a show, trying to get the workers to be like, well, they tried, give them another enemy. Who's the scapegoat now? Oh, the GOP didn't vote. Now that's what they're saying. The GOP didn't vote for the 7-day sick leave. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the Progressive Caucus in the House should have never approved the tentative agreement without the 7 days of sick leave in it. They should have altered the agreement in the House. And if they couldn't alter it in the House, they should have voted no. But only Rashida Tlaib voted no. Even all the squad members were like, yeah, well, I swear, man, the Congressional Progressive Caucus are suckers. You know why they're suckers? Because they keep believing corporate Democrats are going to do the right thing. They keep believing and hoping that they'll get it done. Oh, we'll pass this that's really bad in the hopes that they'll add this later. They did the same thing with Build Back Better. All of the good stuff was tied to the corporate giveaway part of the Build Back Better plan. And when it got to the House, what did they do? They listened to Nancy and the rest of the corporate Democrats, and they separated the two. And they approved the first one. And what happened to the second one? The real big one, the one that had child daycare, family leave, and all that good stuff. What happened to that bill? It died as soon as they separated the two. Stop being suckers. But maybe we're the suckers. Maybe we're the ones that are being played. Maybe. That's how I'm feeling, though. But fear not, because they're going to quiver and quake when they see the workers come together. I don't know, man. I got more faith in the percolating that's going on nationwide. I got more faith in the folks that are working nationwide that know they're getting the raw deal, that know they're getting screwed, that understand what's going on. I got more faith in them. You know, this ain't the only time that it was illegal to strike. They made it illegal to strike. Okay, let's see how this carries forward. I'm so mad at these folks. Both bills cleared the House on Wednesday. Again, just to save face. I told you yesterday was just to save face. I knew yesterday this was going to happen, and you probably knew it too. Biden applauded the move and vowed to sign it as soon as Congress sends it to his desk, which could happen as soon as Friday. Biden, you're a fraud. How in the hell you let these workers down? How can you sit there in a negotiating room and say this is a great deal? Probably because you never worked a real hard day in your life, I imagine. Because there's no way in hell anyone who has ever worked for a living can sit here and say you don't deserve paid days off. Even when you're in the construction trade and you don't have it, you deserve it. I remember before we had PTO, they used to say, I want to take a day off, whatever you can afford. It shouldn't be that way. Working together, we have spared this country a Christmas catastrophe in our grocery stores, in our workplaces, and in our communities, he said in a statement. Working together, we saved billionaires their money and kept them from giving workers 7 days off. And then we used the potential for hurting the grocery stores as the rationale for why we forced the workers to take a bad deal, is what he should have said. Be honest. But not all were satisfied. Senator Bernie Sanders was among the group of bipartisan senators who voted to reject the bill on the union contract and after the sick leave effort failed. Sanders always coming through in the clutch. One of the only real ones out there. Sanders. And he gets maligned by every direction. But he's one of the real ones. And he's been one of the real ones for 40 plus years in government. Y'all need to recognize who the real ones are. Those are the ones you go to bat for. Not these phonies and frauds that just come and smile and shake your hand when they need you. And then when they don't need you, they're just like, see you later. I don't even remember your name. We have to continue the fight, and I intend to do everything that I can to ensure that the day will come sooner or later that not only rail workers in America have guaranteed sick days, but all American workers, Sanders said. He needs help. The majority of the House passed it, and a majority of the Senate passed it, but we weren't able to pass it because we need 60 votes, and that's unfortunate. 6 Republicans voted in favor of the Senate's paid sick leave effort, and only 1 Democrat, Joe Manchin, voted against it. Basically, I made sure that we voted not to increase inflation, not to put more hardships on the American public, especially in West Virginia. They couldn't. That piece of legislation had already been negotiated by the Secretary of Labor and the labor unions and the president, and I didn't think we should be interacting, because if we do, it'd never stop, Manchin said after the vote. Manchin is another snake. West Virginia, do better. Can we get rid of Manchin? The hell y'all doing over there? Railway managers and stakeholders who feared the supply chain disruptions to items like gas and food are already celebrating. Of course they are. Of course they are celebrating. Who would have thought the owners would be celebrating? Surprise. Color me fucking shocked. We are extremely relieved that Congress took action to head off a strike that would have had serious consequences for America's farmers. You don't care about workers. It's evident because you didn't give them sick leave. You don't care. Stop acting like you care about the farmers. You don't care. The farmers who are grappling with an increase in input costs and barge rates due to severe drought conditions on the Mississippi River, said National Corn Growers Association President Tom Hagg. The railroad managers maintained the deal was a compromise for all. As we close out this long, challenging process, none of the parties achieved everything they advocated for. The product of these agreements is a compromise by nature, but the result is one of substantial gains for rail employees, argued Association of American Railroads President Ian Jeffries. Ian Jeffries, you suck. The politics behind the sick leave measure. Let's see how they report this part. The sick leave effort was meant to ease concerns from labor unions and some lawmakers, despite Biden's request not to alter the carefully negotiated underlying deal. I told you it was all to save face. It was just one of those gestures. Oh, how cute. We'll be making sure to campaign and door knock for you next time because of these gestures. Make sure to put together those labor parties for you for these gestures. Because that's what we do it for. Gestures. I love gestures. So warm and fuzzy. Advocates have been asking for a paid sick leave policy to be put in the contract for months. The deal negotiated by the Biden administration only included one paid personal day, causing some unions to reject it, creating the threat of a rail worker strike as soon as December 9th. Some senators, like GOP Senators Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley, and Ted Cruz, have come out strongly against any measure that doesn't include more paid sick days for workers. I applaud Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley, and Ted Cruz for coming out in favor of the workers. I fear that they're only doing it as a political ploy so that they can attack Biden from the left and act like they're in support of workers. But we need those votes, so we're going to take that. But be careful of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think the labor bosses and the Biden administration screwed over workers, cutting a deal they don't support. Facts, Rubio said. I don't think Congress should be in a position of having to negotiate labor deals, but if we're forced to do so, then I'll only support one that at least nods toward what workers' priorities are. So we'll see how it plays out. At least, you know what, I'm going to take it, Rubio. Thank you, sir. They were joined by progressives. In a joint statement issued after the House vote, a dozen Democratic senators urged the Senate leadership to take up both House-passed bills to support the workers. Congress can and must make this agreement better, they said in the statement. For nearly 3 years, our nation's rail workers have been fighting on the front lines of the pandemic. They have kept our trains on the track even while facing unprecedented challenges. Senate Democrats were joined by Labor Secretary Marty Walsh and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg on Thursday. Walsh told reporters that final deal was up to the Senate and more time between railroads and unions was not going to help. Lawmakers had mulled over a third option, extending the cooling off period 90 days to give railroad managers and workers more time to negotiate at the bargaining table. But this effort failed, 26 to 69. Any of the legislative efforts requires 60 votes. White House and Pelosi skepticism looms. Earlier on Thursday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi threw cold water on the possibility of getting 60 votes in the Senate to support 7 days of paid sick leave. So rather than advocate for sick leave, she threw cold water on it. Know where these people lay, like where their loyalties lie. Corporate Democrats are all about big business. They care not about you. Stop supporting corporate Democrats. They suck. And most of the GOP, by the numbers, damn near the entirety, suck as well and don't want to fight for working people. That's just the facts of the matter. Is 75% of elected government hates working people and loves big business. That's the facts. We got to be smarter in the primaries. We got to know what we're doing. We got to run people that we know are going to get in there and fight on our behalf. And on top of that, we got to fight for ourselves. And on top of that, we got to take control of our local unions and make sure that our elected officials, our elected representatives are representing us too, instead of sucking up to politicians trying to get a gesture. It's such a nice gesture. I hope it feeds you well, your little gesture. If we had 60 votes in the Senate, it could possibly happen, but we don't have 60 votes in the Senate, Pelosi said. Maybe they'll surprise us in the next day or so and vote for a sick leave, but that's an obstacle to it. Why aren't you making phone calls? Why aren't you demanding Chuck Schumer make phone? Why aren't y'all beating on people to get them to vote for this? Why aren't you out there publicly saying, if you vote no to this, you're basically voting no to working people deserving sick days? And oh, the hypocrisy when Congress has the best health care and the most sick days and the most cush job ever. During a joint press conference with French President Emmanuel Macron, Biden was asked about the pending railroad strike in the U.S. Biden defended the deal. What was negotiated was so much better than anything they ever had, Biden said, adding that a strike would cost 750,000 jobs and send the U.S. into a recession. Listen to the silly bullshit that President Biden said. What was negotiated was so much better than anything they ever had. You left out the damn only thing that they really freaking cared about. Railroad companies have been profiting billions while cutting worker forces, while straining out these workers, getting them stretched so thin and mandating that they have to work and be on call 24/7, 14 days consecutively. You have no concept of what that must be like. Where's the Joe with all the empathy at? Who is this dude? He's the same dude he's always been. I can't stand these fakes, man. They fakes. You gotta look through the fakes. Gotta see right through them. People will show you who they are. Believe them, man. Maya told us that a long time ago. He insisted the White House will renew its push for paid leave for all workers in all industries after Congress passes this draft deal. Bullshit. Biden has asked for the bill by Saturday, according to the White House. Railroads handle the transportation of 30 to 40% of all goods, but take on the lion's share of products like ethanol, fertilizer, and grains. Railroad managers warn that with a strike, there are few other options given ongoing trucking shortages and the risk of backlogging ports. This is a rerun of yesterday's article as far as that commentary right there. But I told you yesterday, even the struggling that we have with the truckers and everything else, it all comes down to greed. These cats are not giving you a quality job, and they're expecting you to work it for peanuts. And then they'll give you a little bit of money and expect you to be a slave for them. Freedom? What freedom? Can't even get sick without getting fired. What freedom? What are we really talking about here? We're talking about quality of life. I'm so sick right now of all this nonsense, but believe me, do not despair, because they got to say, well, what happens now? They made strikes illegal. The teachers of West Virginia went on strike as a wildcat strike a few years ago, back in 2018, I think it was. And that led to a nationwide teacher strike, which led to better pay, better benefits, and better conditions. I'm not betting against working people. Congress may have just done what they did, but you're fucking with working people. Not just working people who are fed up and tired of being abused and taken advantage of. I know you feel it. That's what they're dealing with, and I don't think they're ready for it. So prepare for a hard winter, because I think it's going to be a hard pressed to get these workers to accept this bullshit that was just handed down. They might just up and quit their jobs. And then where are we going to be? My faith is in the workers. Keep in mind, the fight's not left and right, it's up and down. It's going to take solidarity to win. Always, each one teach one, get out there and reach one. And there can be no union without you and I front and center, so let's get it. Peace.